Hi and welcome to GRVOTV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. This is my third attempt, was going to be an unboxing of the Panasonic Lumix G7, and I failed miserably twice. This is the third one using a different camera. And the reason being, and I'll just cover this quickly first, because the Panasonic Lumix GX8 that I was using, they only supplied it with a 2.5mm microphone jack, and as you know, 99% of microphones have a 3.5mm jack. I'm sure they could have fitted in the extra millimetre. So what I've had to do is I've got a converter, which is this bit here, but with the converter and the microphone lead in the camera going straight out, it puts too much pressure on it, so I've then got an elbow joint. So I've now got two connectors which go in, and basically it's mucking up the audio. And the audio kept dropping out. Now I'll try and get a better quality sort of elbow joint, or I'm going to do something different. But ultimately, that is the. I know people say, "Oh, well, at least it's got a microphone jack." Well, yeah, but it's got the wrong size in it. Simple as, and it does cause problems. Anyway, rant over. This is about the new camera, so I'm going to do a very, very quick unboxing. There you go. You get the usual stuff in the box. The quick start guide, which is actually quite useful if you've not used a Lumix camera before. Very easy. Some information in there. A DVD called Silky Pics, which I've got no idea what that is. Some kind of, I don't know, what is it? Must be some kind of instructions, applications, operating instructions for advanced features. There you go, whatever that is. And then in the box, obviously you've got the camera, you've got the usual Lumix charger, which is nice because now I've got the batteries for the GX8 and the G7 are the same. So I've got two batteries, two chargers, so when I get some spare batteries, everything fits everything, which is fantastic. And you get a little USB lead. All that pretty much will stay in there, apart from the charger, which obviously I will use. So I'll just get that out of the way for now. So here it is, the Panasonic Lumix G7. I've put the lens on it, which is actually my partner's, which she'll be using most of the time, which is the 14 to 140 10 times super zoom, optically stabilised, great little lens. Yes, it's a 4.5 to 5.6 or 3.5 to 5.6, but for a one-stop shop lens, absolutely fantastic lens. First thing I noticed about the camera when I got it out was how light it is, really lightweight. Plastic as opposed to the metal construction of the GH3 that I had before, and the GH4, and also the GX7 and now 8. But nice quality plastics, doesn't look cheap, it looks really nice, but it's so comfortable. And everything is where it should be. Like for instance, this little lever here, you don't think much of it really, but that's autofocus single point, continuous and manual focus. Now on the OMD EM5, which I've recently got rid of, there was no easy way of switching between those modes. You had to go into a menu or do a button and go into it was just a faff, and you couldn't set it up to do it easily. Whereas I can, all right, I'm shooting, okay, I want to just quickly switch to continuous, bosh, done. I'm in continuous autofocus. Oh, I want to go manual focus, bosh, I'm there. You know, it should be that easy. On-off switch, it's in a place where you can hold the camera down so you can walk along, saving your battery, because the battery life on all these types of mirrorless cameras is not great, to be honest. And again, the Olympus, which it does seem like I'm knocking, but it is a wonderful camera. The Olympus was really bad for battery life, and the on-off switch was on the wrong side, so you had to use two hands to turn the camera on. Whereas this, I can walk along, da-di-da-di-da, oh, see something I want, turn it on, bring it up, bosh, I'm ready to shoot. That's how it should be, simple. Got your normal PASM dial, which is nice, nice feel, no locks or anything like that on it, just as it should be. The dial over here is for your single shot, continuous shooting. It's got a switch for 4K mode, bracketing. That looks like a stop motion one, and also a timer. That's really nice to have. Loads of function buttons. We've got function 1 up here, got a function button here, got function 2 on the back, function 3, 4 and a 5 on the back. Pop-up flash, really nice. Flip out screen, absolutely lovely. The viewfinder, beautiful, refreshes really well. You go from light to dark and it updates really well. There's no lag. One of the best viewfinders I've used other than on the GX8, which is the same sort of quality but slightly bigger. Really nice. Got a record button on top. These two dials, I have had a few people say, oh, they're a bit on the loose side, and I tend to agree, but it's not a problem. They're nice and clicky and they're fine. As long as they don't wear over time, they should be absolutely fine. I can see that people say, yeah, you can easily knock them, and yeah, you probably can, but because the way your hand sits, you're not really going to do it. It might just be in and out of your bag sort of thing, but something just to be aware of. Got under here HDMI, a remote and AV audio, digital, AV out digital sockets. On the other side you've got the mic jack, 3.5mm, thank you very much, that's wonderful, which is really nice. Not weather sealed as the GX8, GX3 and 4 before it, but it's not an issue on a camera like this. It was £550 body only, so we're not talking super expensive. And also the SD card and the battery both go in the bottom, which I know does upset people when they're on a tripod mount, but the kind of Arca Swiss plate that I use, I can actually get into the bottom of this, and it's the same on the GX8. So I don't really miss having the SD card on the side. It is nicer there, but it's, again, not a deal breaker and not a problem. Now, one of the interesting points about the Panasonics is they've never really advertised how good their autofocus is. Now, the Sony, I had the Sony NEX6 and it said it was the fastest autofocus camera. It was nowhere near as fast as the GX7. The A6000, they reckon that's the fastest, and it might be in a certain category. Again, nowhere near as fast as these cameras. And the OMD EM1 and also the EM5 Mark II, again, they were saying they're the fastest autofocus, and it's all bollocks. These two cameras here, and I would also add to that the GX7, definitely the most responsive, definitely the fastest. Shot point to point, you cannot beat these. They're fantastic. They're so quick, it's unbelievable in grabbing auto. It's almost like as quick as you can bosh, 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 bosh. You know, as quick as you can move around, it's just bang, 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 bang. Absolutely wonderful. Shooting speed, really fast. So 8 frames a second in single, very fast. You pop it into continuous, 6 frames a second, still plenty quick enough. Absolutely great. Got the DFD autofocusing system on, which is great, working really well on the GX8, and it did on my GH4. Absolutely brilliant. You've got the 4K photo mode, which is wonderful, and obviously 4K recording. You haven't quite got the same bit rates and things that you got in the GH4, and there's no cinema mode, but it's got all the modes you need really. And when you're shooting at 4K 100 bits per second, you know, it's fantastic. It's just when you're going to 1080, I think it drops to 28 megapixels per second. Still absolutely fine for most people's uses. This, I don't think it's going to be a replacement for the GH3 or GH4. It is a lesser version, but for the kind of person it's aimed at, absolutely perfect. You know, your average sort of just enthusiast, I would say. It's an enthusiast camera. Yes, you could easily use this for making films with. It's, you know, plenty good enough, don't get me wrong, but there are better tools to use for that. And I'm guessing when the GH6, if that's what it's going to be called, comes out, it will be an amalgamation of the GH4 and the GX8 and probably a little bit of the G7 as well, all mingled in together. It's going to be a wonderful camera, that is. So that's that. While we're on the subject of shooting speed and just general sort of effectiveness of the sensor and the processor in this camera, everything works together really well. Even from reviewing the photos, it's almost like if you review it just holding the button down, you can review the photos. It's like a mini sort of film almost. It's that quick. The buffer is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I can just sit there and hold it. I'm not sure it's ever going to stop. I just don't want to rack up a shutter count, to be honest, because it just doesn't seem to want to stop in JPEGs. It's absolutely fantastic as well in RAW, but this camera is not going to be shooting RAW. It's only going to be shooting JPEGs. 1.5 doesn't shoot RAW, so it's just going to stay on RAW. And what we do is we adjust the profile of the JPEG in camera so that you end up with a picture that you want and how you would sort of edit it almost right off the bat. Dynamic range appears to be great, and the way it deals with the highlights and shadows even in the JPEGs seems absolutely fine, so that's brilliant. The other lens, just quickly, I'm just going to quickly show you with this lens on, is that we're going to use on this camera is if we're in a low light situation. We've just got the Panasonic pancake lens, the 20mm f1.7, and the only reason I got this lens was because I got it for less than £100. So I got it super cheap, and obviously no image stabilisation when it's on here because the image stabilisation is in the lens, but on this type of lens it's not really a problem, to be fair. Autofocus nowhere near as quick on this lens, but it's absolutely fine and does its job really well. Obviously this lens on the GX8 becomes stabilised, which is great. That's the only thing that it would have been nice to have image stabilisation built in, but I can certainly live without it in this camera. Just pop that back on. So there you go. That's my initial thoughts on the Panasonic Lumix G7. Really happy with it. Obviously we had the GH3, so we've gone from the GH3 to this, and in some ways they're upgrades, in some ways they're downgrades. Like in the 10, this doesn't do as good 1080 video as the GH3, but it does 4K. And the most important thing is it's got that 4K burst mode, which is absolutely fantastic. A real useful tool, that is. Not just a gimmick by any stretch of the imagination. So, one other thing, the AF/AE lock button on the back, which I always change to an AF on button, so you've got back button autofocus, absolutely works a treat, and it's in the perfect position. If you're like a Canon user and you're used to using your AF on button on Nikon, and that's where you want it, you can do that on this no problem. Whereas on the GX8 you can do it, but it's not quite in the right place. There's two buttons you can choose from, and neither of them are in the ideal position. Whereas on this, absolutely brilliant. So there you go. Yeah, this is my initial thoughts on the Panasonic Lumix G7. There you go.